Tonight, we have sponsors of this particular program. We have El Samea. It is a resort in Naivasha. If you want to enjoy your sweats, or you want to do team building, if you want to do all those sorts of things that happen in the resorts, kindly go to El Samea in Naivasha and enjoy your time there. Then we have Profiles International. Profiles International specialize in emotional intelligence, psychometric tests in organizations. They're one of the leading experts in emotional intelligence. Okay, we have Labor Planet. They're also an outsource firm. If you want your organization to have human resource dimensions from an outside organization, you contact Labor Planet. Then we have Nile Front. Nile Front is a resort in Uganda that is breathtaking. That is breathtaking. You do not need a jet. It is just to get into a bus and land there and enjoy the panoramic view of the Nile. Then we have Pathway Solutions. They are an online learning and development firm. If you want self-paced learning programs, please get in touch with Pathway Solutions. Then we have We Clean. We Clean, they clean carpets, sofa sets, and they have the most modernized machines that they clean, they dry, and you get your carpets, sofa sets in the shortest times possible. I don't know, moderator of choice is going to add, you receive your mats and sofa set almost the same day. You can confirm the timelines, moderator of choice. Then we have that organization that I'm about to forget is which one. It is in very small captions, maybe. Then we have Larson. They are also a management consultants firm. Moderator of choice can confirm or can clarify. Let us have this conversation, moderator of choice, as we wait for Joyce to come on board. We are not going to have any excuse why we are not going to do this discussion. It is something that we know the nuts and bolts. We are going to remind ourselves, even like the Bible says, I'm not a theologian, but it says, remind them even if they know. So we are going to remind each other about HR as a change catalyst. Yes, you've made various contributions. What challenges you face as human resource practitioners when you are spearheading change? You've said some of the things that if affect change is lack of effective planning, lack of effective communication, lack of proper involvement of the stakeholders. What are your contributions, moderator of choice, Grace Nzula? So we might not have a sequence because we do not have PowerPoint. Fear of the unknown. That is one of the challenges that HR people face. Fear of the unknown. Why do we fear the unknown? Why can't we embrace the unknown? Why can't we embrace the unknown? CHRP, Candy. Why do we fear the unknown? Aren't we adventurous? We have Stanley Chepkwon, who is saying change should focus on continuous improvement. But the good question could be, what is the first thing that we should do when we want to initiate change? What are some of the things that we should do when we want to initiate change? Obedi Mnyoki, welcome. Identify the problem. Martha Kumwangi has said that we need to identify the problem. What are some of the telltale signs of the problem? Jude, that is Mercy Mwangi. What are some of the telltale signs that indeed we need to start a change management program? Yes, we have identified the problem. Anna Lunjalo has said, Lynette Juang has said, communicate the importance of change. Ruth Kendwa, do advanced training on the change items. That is very good. What are some of the telltale signs that indeed an organization needs change management? We can write on our charts. When do we begin to see Warogoras identify change champions? Ngenyi has said, seek support from top management.
Right, I think Joyce is here. Joyce, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's one of those days. Tried joining before and it was so successful, very comfortable. Exactly at 8:05, dropped off completely.
Yeah, don't worry. I think the devils are saying, but the Lord is with us.
It is well.
It is absolutely well. So I think maybe, are you ready now to go?
Yes, I'm ready to go, but just give me a minute. I'm trying to project the presentation just to save time and run through it as we talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine. Richard, you can go. You can continue with the conversation.
Yes, we can continue contributing. The question was, what are the telltale signs that this organization is sick and it needs to see a medical doctor? Attrition rates. Yes, Sarah Aroni has said that when you see avoiding conflicts, that is from Daniel Otieno. High turnover, that is Hannah Bunjabi. When you can see people leaving in droves, we are told that people don't leave organizations, they leave their leaders. That is when you start. Yes, poor performance, that is Priscilla. Joff, Mahirelia's friend, Joff, has said something that is, Paul Ngugi has said lack of innovation. Yes, when you see you having the same services, the same people, that this is the way we have been doing this, that is the time to realize that indeed this organization needs presentism. Yes, whereby Richard comes and puts his coat on the seat and starts Googling and doing stuff on the internet. Alice Okuta said, lack of motivation, lack of enthusiasm, lack of zeal. Are you ready, Joyce? You can pick it up.
Yes, I'm ready. Oh, thank you so very, very much, Richard and Grace, and all the attendees. Apologies for that. Technology challenges, I think, sometimes cannot be predicted. And I've had them to even utilize another laptop to be able to join once again. But thank you very much for having me at Tara Solutions. Extremely, extremely delighted. Asanteni sana. And thank you very much for, giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk about HR as a change catalyst. My name is Joyce Mwashigadi. I suppose, Richie, you had already introduced me and I don't need to go into detail.
Yes, we did.
Fantastic. So now, because we have a bit of limited time, I'll try my best to cover as much as I can within the 20 minutes so that we have sufficient time for question and also answers. Please feel free to raise your hand at some point, Grace, should I not be connected well or should it not be clear, so that we don't lose any of the participants today. So the first thing that I thought quickly about this topic, I personally have been involved in several changes, ranging from organizational change to subsidiary changes, to HR change management, restructures, many other aspects of HR. But I think my pet subject is change, because for whatever reason, wherever I've gone, I've been called Mrs. Reorganization. The teams change. Maybe not by my own effort, because of the team effort, but it's because of one mantra that I have, which today I'm going to share with you, And I hope that it's going to be a very useful time when we learn together. So I just wanted to quickly run us through in a very simple manner. When Grace asked me to talk about HR as a catalyst of change, I thought about why should HR be a catalyst? What should HR catalyze? And how should HR be that effective transformational partner that is going to not only, facilitate business, but transform it to be able to serve the key stakeholders and build a sustainable business. So the first thing I think we need to quickly understand is, why then do we even need to have this perspective of change? Number one, looking at it, broadly, we reckon that change is the only permanent thing. But again, before we go into the detail, it's important to understand human resource being a catalyst for change is very critical. The first bit that I want to bring through is, for us to be effective HR people or even business people, we need to understand that the human resource aspect is very important. However, in these current times, we have transitioned from being personnel administrators to HR people. And therefore, many a times people will ask me, is HR really interested in transforming businesses? And I say yes. But I want us to appreciate today that human resource has now transitioned to becoming people and culture transformers. And people, when we were growing up in our HR career, we were told people are the greatest assets of organizations. I personally don't believe in that, because assets depreciate. Assets can be valued sometimes even in terms of monetary, perspectives. But, people are people. And I hope today, as we are looking at how HR can transform organizations and catalyze change, we will remember this key important point, that people are people, and not just the greatest assets of organizations. In fact, in places like banks, assets are deemed as liabilities and liabilities as assets. People are not liabilities, unless, of course, they are non-performers and they are not contributing to our businesses. But people are people. And if we say then HR should play a central role in transforming organizations and catalyzing change, of course, change means to transform, to move from one form to another. If a business was loss-making, how does HR step in to enable it to become a profit-making organization? That's an example. If a team is struggling, how does HR take a strategic position to enable that team to do much better? A catalyst. A catalyst is a chemical that is used to quicken some certain reaction. And therefore, today, as we speak about human resource becoming a catalyst, we are also meaning, how can HR accelerate change in our current times? Very important to note, because HR has always been deemed like a cost center, a support function, there to wait to be guided instead of guiding, to sit at the back instead of shaping strategy. So how can HR become a catalyst? Now, we must remember that people are people, and this is a very critical perspective today as we speak about how HR can catalyze change, that the real opportunity for success lies within the person and not the job. So even as we are thinking about change, we need to remember we are dealing with people, and these people are the ones with full potential that can enable us either transform or not transform the organization. So why should HR be a catalyst for change? Friends, HR is very important, because whether we want it or not, the environment has changed. And I know we will share these slides, so I don't have to to take you through all the detail. But when you think about our external environment, there is heightened stakeholders and customer expectations more than ever before. Whether you're in NGO world, your partners are expecting more from you. Whether you're in a profit-making organization, your partners are expecting more from you. But also our customers have significantly changed. HR should not work in isolation. It should remember that the external perspective is very important in transforming the organization to answer to the external environment. We are living in difficult times, and especially economically. Lots of taxes, mambo ni matatu in Kenya. I mean, life is no longer the same, you know. Lots of demands, social health fund coming up very soon. Affordable housing has been implemented regionally in Tanzania, in Rwanda, lots of changes in the economy. And also globally, currency fluctuations that are extremely impacting our operating environment. HR should be alive to the fact that these are difficult economic times. But that said, the external environment is also lending itself to a lot of legal requirements and legal changes. Not so sure about many other countries, but Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya currently, our legal and labor perspective is so pro-employee, and the employer is therefore under so much pressure to ensure that we are updating our policies, we are updating our procedures to be able to answer to the external environment. Regulation. I specifically work in the banking industry, and the banking industry has become extremely regulated. And this, therefore, has caused us to think about HR differently. And in my subsequent slides, I'm going to talk about it in terms of how we have even changed our approach towards ensuring that we catalyze the change. So lots of technology shifts. ChatGPT is here with us. AI is here with us. I mean, technology is changing every day. So today, even as we are thinking about how HR can catalyze change, it's important for us to really remember why we must change is because we are operating in a very volatile, uncertain, and a very ambiguous type of environment. But again, that's external to our organizations. How about it internally? Rigid organizational structures. I must see my employee present for me to believe they are really working. Workforce demographics. There are generations that are coming in, our daughters, our sons that are joining the organizations. In our organization, sometimes they tell me, you guys are ancestors. You can't understand us. And many a times I've had to lower myself to their level to be able to really understand what they are up to. The demographics are changing. The Generation Y, millennials, the X's are all coming in, and it's no longer the same. There's a high demand for performance. So much so that unfortunately, some employees now are going into mental conditions. With the combination of the external factors, the environment is very, very unstable. But again, we are having also more of unstable employees because of the challenges, internal and external. And this is very important to us, even as we are discussing how HR can catalyze change. Having understood that people are people, that they should be treated as people, but they're not operating in an isolated environment. They're operating in an external and internal environment. We then need to understand what should HR do, not to catalyze change, to even create it. It's one thing to catalyze change. It's another thing to create change. And I think HR, fellow HR professionals, duty is calling that we need to step up in terms of not only being doers, but architects of the change that we want to see. COVID was a great example how HR can come in and quickly not only respond to change, but proactively manage change to ensure that people are safe and also working. But I wanted to just really go through what HR can do to create change and focus more on the how to change. Because I think that's where I've really worked through, and I would love to, share from my practical experience. One of the gurus of HR that I follow a lot is called David Green. And he has a lot of work around the HR insights and the HR of the future. And part of what he proposes, that HR can do to catalyze change, number one, he says we need a more humane organization. Number two, HR has to be ready for the AI age, which I think is already here, not like it's coming, it's already here. How do we redesign workplaces and work for the hybrid era? Now, combination, flexible hours. How do we shift people analytics from insight to value? How do we partner more effectively with finance? Unfortunately, most of us as HR professionals don't know how to interpret numbers. And numbers are very, very important in understanding the people perspective and change specifically. But again, he does propose that we need to build a skills-based organization, make workforce planning more strategic, really reinforce diversity, equity, and inclusion. And over and above, I think, which is very important, is to nurture the listening organization. Very, very critical when it comes to catalyzing change as HR. Of key importance, and I think that's what now I will focus on, is then in the backdrop of understanding, people are people, they are operating in an environment, and there are some opportunities that HR can utilize to catalyze change. Of key importance is the how can we do it? And I think you and I, maybe, I'm not so sure, Grace, whether you had that background of when we used to be personnel administrators. We are ancestors, or we are the generation that started a bit early in life. But, them days, we looked at people as numbers. How many people have joined the organization? How many people have left? Where are their files when we are resourcing? Because I used to do a bit of resourcing. I did a lot of training and development. It would be more of how many people. We dared not really bother too much about what is the business going through. But now, today, the call for HR to catalyze change has become very, very important. And I just want to run us through some of the things that we can do for HR to catalyze change. And I will now cease from being theoretical here, and I will apply my practical experience even as we talk together, so that again, we have a session that is as practical as possible and we carry some great learnings from this session. Number one, we must return back to the H in the human resource. We must humanize the work environment. I personally work in a bank, extremely highly performance driven. And I know many other organizations right now, it's about how much profit have we made? How much money are we making? How many people can we release so that we save on our staff costs? And no one is bothering about the H in the human. In my past 3 years, I have come now to appreciate that the H in the human is very, very, very critical. Today, as HR professionals in this forum, and I know we may have even other people joining from businesses, the challenge then becomes, how do we ensure that we are treating our people in a humane way, even as we are catalyzing the change. Of key importance is people are people and they should be treated as people, even during change. Number two, we need to reposition, empower, develop, and enable the HR department. People should, we used to say that HR department is a holy job. I mean, a legal HR and audit, we call them holy jobs. In other words, if someone fails to get help from anywhere else, HR during change management should be at the forefront, and that's where people then get help. And you can imagine Joyce can't do it alone as the leader. So everyone within HR should be repositioned, empowered, developed, and enabled to be that human resource team that is going to add value to the business. Remember, during change and during turbulence, people need hope. And I have personally found myself ceasing from talking too much about you did not book enough assets this month to I am behind you, supporting you. You can make it. Let's move together. We need to change our language as HR people as we catalyze the change from being focused on the what needs to be done in terms of how it is to be done. Remember, people will always forget what you did for them sometimes, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And HR, being the HR with the H, must be very conscious about how we make our people feel. Even when we are separating, even when we are terminating, even when we are declaring the redundancy, even during, emerging things that we did not foresee. How is HR, ensuring as a team, not as Joyce alone as a leader, but as a team, how are we repositioning ourselves to really be able to support the businesses? Number three, we need to actively participate in strategy development and execution. And this is a great challenge because as HR, or many a times as HR during change, we sit back, we wait for the business cases to come from the businesses. We even wonder and follow through that you are supposed to have submitted this business case by yesterday. Why hasn't it come through? The challenge to us today, and personally, it's been, how do I ensure that I actively participate in the strategy development? When even there's investor briefing, is Joyce there? Am I understanding where the organization is heading to? When maybe a certain team like retail banking, corporate banking is formulating strategy, do I join in later? No, I should be there from onset. Why? Because HR will only support business and will only catalyze change if it understands change. Indeed, you can never give that which you do not have. Right leadership, right people in the right roles, very important. HR should be very cautious about the type of leadership they onboard in organizations. And we onboard, because I am in there. Remember, everything starts and stops with leadership. As much as the buck stops with each one of us, it does stop with leadership. Leadership can create or even stifle properly the change that you want to see. Leadership can enhance and enable, or at the same time really destroy value, depending on the type of leadership you then onboard. And are we saying we will ever get perfect people? No, not at all. We will get the suitable people, and then we will develop them appropriately. And of key importance here is to note that even as you're onboarding the leadership that you want to lead the change, do they fit not only in the role, but also the culture? I have come to see in my little small experience that some people are very competent, very good with skills, knowledge, attributes required for the role, but the culture fit is totally off. Now, for example, today, if I want my people, let's say, you know, I'm trying to expand by the business around, you know, Isili, Kariakoo in Tanzania, Uganda, it will be, you know, a place where there's lots of business activity. Yeah? Am I going for a manager of my center that has the culture of Isili, e.g. Somali? Okay, because that is the most dominant population there. If I am recruiting a leader who is supposed to go into government, who is supposed to like ramp up, let's say, some monies, let's say from or customer numbers from churches, might it be time for me to consider recruiting a pastor? That is the shift that is required when it comes to, you know, positioning HR as a change agent. That everything I do from the beginning to the very end of the employee journey is towards supporting the organization to do business more effectively and to change properly. Number 4, we as HR people must start becoming a people advocate and not only business advocate. In my little experience again, I have come to see that sometimes the business is the one that even tells us what should be done, even for HR, instead of us leading the conversations. So for example, the business wants to expand. Meanwhile, maybe they need more people, but in there are people who may not be required because of, let's say, their skill sets have become obsolete in specific roles. A HR person then engages with business and business say, we don't want Joyce. And the next thing is Grace, who is the team leader in HR, sacks Joyce. That way, we have become business advocates instead of people advocates. I mean, the conversation should be, is there any other role that Joyce can do within the organization? If we terminate Joyce at this time, even before going through the process of preparing her for the exit, what does that mean? I mean, we must really be not only business advocates, but people advocates. People work late trying to meet targets. Where is HR in all that? The change that needs to be catalyzed is, what can I do differently? Do we resource you much better? Do we support you with development? What can we do differently? Very, very important. Another part of my practical experience, not written anywhere in the books or what, it's just my experience as a business partner, is also unbiased and support for the line managers and team members. Oh, sorry, I can hear a bit of echo. Okay. Oh, it's Richie. Okay. So it's very interesting. Now I can hear myself.
You're logged in with 2 gadgets.
No, I'm logged one. But anyway, let me continue. I hope it's clear on that screen.
Yeah, you're clear. You're clear, Joyce.
Fantastic. Great. So another thing that I've seen coming through is unbiased mediation and support for the line managers and team.
There's still an echo. There's still 2 gadgets.
Okay.
Maybe your laptop eventually picked.
Maybe. Let me try to log out. Okay. Is that a bit better now? Oh, there's still an echo. I think immediately Richie switched a bit. Richie, are you able to mute? Let me see whether to accept. That is perfect now.
Oh, it was Richard. Okay.
Yeah. That's perfect now.
Right, go ahead. Continue.
Okay. So one other thing that I think we need to be cautious about, of course, is unbiased mediation and support for line managers and team members. I have come to see in my little experience once again as, I've done a bit of training, I've done resourcing, I have done business partnership, and right now more of steering change for the group. I've come to see that the line manager's perspective sometimes is at loggerheads with the team member's perspective, even in terms of change. So how do I offer unbiased mediation such that I'm not leaning so much towards the line manager or the team member? In other words, we as HR people, for us to effectively catalyze change, we must be a people who are very balanced. Don't favor the line manager, don't favor the team member. Just ensure that you're very objective in your decisioning around supporting the change while managing both interests effectively. Another issue would be, of course, another how will be to be agile and flexible ideas and new ways of work. Now, the organizations are really, really changing. And I think this is calling us to a perspective of ensuring that we have agile structures. Agile structures, therefore, mean, for instance, there's COVID that has come up. And because of COVID, there are some certain corporate clients that are struggling because of non-performing loans. Initially, you are focusing on manufacturing sector, but you have to quickly change and focus on agriculture instead. As HR people, how do we quickly create a structure that speaks to that? Because we are so used to the approved structure says, the HR policy demands, the procedure stipulates, the process dictates. We as HR people, if we are to really be able to be agents of change as we catalyze it and create it, we must be agile and flexible to ideas and embrace new structures and ways of work. Another area that I've seen that is going to be extremely impactful, HR should be visible and approachable. And by this, I mean, if the HR department is located in, let's say, the Ivory Tower in town, and the branches are located all over the country, like in KCB, we have over 200 branches. How is Joyce supposed to really be visible across all those branches? And I'll tell you why visibility is important. I have come to notice that when you interact with people at a close range, they even give you more ideas. And as a result, you are able to catalyze change more easily. But again, might it be time for us to start even accompanying our people to the type of jobs they do? For instance, if I'm having relationship managers in my purview, HR, what is wrong with myself as a HR person, accompanying a relationship manager one of those days and checking out exactly what they do and how they approach and engage with the customer? And why that's important is because during those engagements, perhaps I will then note that this person is very good in product knowledge, but they need support in negotiation skills. Or this person is very good in strategy, but they are unable to operationalize it. Or this director is very good in coming up with ideas, but they never see the light of day. I mean, I should be present. In fact, currently in KCB, what we are doing differently is the HR business partners are now positioned in the various businesses that they support. So instead of sitting in our central place, which is Kencom, we then have them distributed across our branches, and we all sit together with the people we serve. It is a way of saying we are here to serve you, but it's another way of saying we will be here to support you. Another area that we should catalyze change, and I think it's very critical for us today, is to pursue external orientation and not only internal focus. I've come to note that as HR people generally, or many HR departments, are extremely internally oriented more than externally oriented. We should be knowing when the doctors are striking. We should be knowing, for example, if we are in a certain NGO, what are some of the partners doing out there? we should be very clear about what's happening in the technology world. We should be relevant people. How networked are we? How networked are we not only with HR forums or HR groups, but also with business groups, so that we are adding value, not only internally, but externally? How do we catalyze the change? Because when we come back, we are able then to start supporting our brand to build it to be very relevant for the market. In view of time, I will not really belabor too much on that because we shall share this, but we must also be conscious of the whole employee. And the whole employee, I mean, many a times when managing change and HR is going through change together with the business, we only remember the employee, the physical employee that comes to work. But today, you and I have got the emotional part, they have the social part, we have the spiritual part, and we have had employees who, come and they resign, for example, because they feel HR was not there to take care of a certain need that they had. But again, we all know currently there's been significant increase around mental illness situations. HR must take care of the whole employee. It can't be, for example, that an employee is having an abusive marriage, then they come to work because of turbulent change, the restructure is going on, and the line manager is shouting at them. Then they come to HR, and HR is saying, I'm not here to resolve your marital issues. I'm here to support you to deliver. I mean, this is the most, archaic way of running HR, because HR currently should not only support the employee to perform, they should be able to support the employee to be whole and to be well, to be able to operate. Because our good employee and our whole employee will make your customers very happy and will make your partners very happy. And also, lastly, we must be open to enable and not stifle change. I mean, some people even fear, coming to HR because they say, if I go with my innovative idea, the probability that HR will stifle it is very high. So let me just sit with my idea over here. How can HR actively participate in opening innovation hubs, having suggestion box, supporting employees to really innovate? Very, very critical. And as we are coming to an end, I just wanted to share one of my favorite quotes that I think will be very relevant for this, even as we open it up to questions and answers, to say that, Barack Obama said, for the world has changed and we must change with it. HR should not be left behind. We should change with the world. We should change with the business. We should change with our external environment. But again, to remind us that people are people, and they're not just the greatest asset for the organization. And therefore, HR, when catalyzing change, should remember that it's not only for the organization, it's because people are people. They are not just assets. Thank you very much, and I hand it over back to you, Grace.
Wow, 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 wow. This is amazing. I can see on the chat people are just saying, indeed, Joyce, you're a catalyst. And I totally agree. I think you are one of my good friends and favorite speakers. And this is quite a thought-provoking for HRs. But there's a question that I think I saw last week, and it's also here today. And somebody's saying, Joyce, what if the leadership is the problem? How do we deal with leadership that does not support change? What do we do?
Okay. What if leadership is the problem?
Like you work in an organization where you're not being supported for change. Every change initiative is hit by resistance, not only from employees, but also from the management. How do you deal with that?
Okay. Maybe I will speak now theoretically and I'll speak practically, yeah? So, if I were to look at it, broadly, if leadership is the problem, it could be three reasons. One, truly, they could be a good leader, but they do not have the required new skills for steering change. And therefore, in such a case, the intervention is developing them to the step that you want them to come to. It could be you recruited the wrong leaders and therefore you have square pegs in round holes. I mean, call it out, put them on performance improvement. If it doesn't work, shake hands, because sometimes we don't get it very right, but again, it is okay to still call it out. Number three, if leadership is the problem, sometimes that leadership could be above us as HR people and not below us. So what can we do differently? I think it is just to constantly continue communicating that we need to do something different around our leadership, enhance that leadership, and be able to have the ownership from the highest level possible to support you in changing that leadership. And if push comes to shove, I think sometimes it is to also ask ourselves as HR, am I in an organization where I have a culture fit personally? If it's not the right culture fit, it's still okay to say I tried, and therefore let me try somewhere else. That would be my answer. Thank you, Grace.
All right, that's quite a good answer. And there's somebody who had said initially, when you're doing a presentation, kindly explain more about a rigid organization.
Okay, so a rigid organization, number one, has got very rigid structures. Like you must go through, there's lots of bureaucracy in the structure, yeah? It will start with assistant manager, then senior manager, then you go to head. In other words, the organization is structured in a way that there's a lot of rigidity and bureaucracy. Number two, it is an organization that is not open to change. Even when there's lots of changes that have come, the rigid organization and rigid structure will never tolerate change. COVID has come, remote working may be the best idea. A rigid organization will say, we have to physically see people in the office to believe they are working. That is a type of a rigid organization. Another element of a rigid organization is the one that is always reacting to change instead of anticipating change. So what happens with this particular rigid organization is the leadership will stay put, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, taxes are coming. What are we going to do? I mean, before they were even coming right now physically or practically, a flexible organization would have already developed policies, procedures, and ways of working to support anticipated change. But one with rigid structures will always stay until we see it implemented. We shall not move.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. There's somebody who's also saying, Anne says, what if the culture has been an inhibitor and you're a new HR leader who is required to bring in change? How do you go about it?
Now, let me be very generous. Maybe I can ask Grace also to share a few thoughts because I'm not running this alone. I am such a team player. I don't believe in talking alone throughout the session. Any thoughts, Grace?
So when you're a HR leader, I think the first thing that you need to do is get to understand the issues that are making the culture a rigid one, for example, and then start addressing the root cause, not just what normally what we see are symptoms, but if you treat symptoms, they will keep coming back. So I think for you, the challenge, because you're new, the first thing that you need to do is understand the underlying issues, so that then you are able to deal with the actual issues that are making the culture that is not supportive. And then from there, you start dealing with those issues. That way, you get to change the culture first. And then as you change the culture, then you will start seeing results about the other changes that you seek to do. But of course, if you want to change most of the things, culture is one of those that you really, really need to work on, because some change, maybe it's swallowed by the change, by the culture that you're really hanging on to. So as a new leader, I keep saying, find root cause challenges of the issues that you're facing, and then start dealing with those actual issues. And the way you told, like when you have a sack of potatoes and then you need to, and one goes bad, it's likely to like spoil everything. So once you find out the root cause analysis, then you can now take advantage and seal those. And then from there, culture, you start changing culture slowly. And then once the culture is accepting of change, then you can start your other initiatives. But sometimes there are some initiatives that you may need to run hand in hand with the culture change, depending on your KPIs. So you have to be very aware of where your starting point is, and then start rolling out. And sometimes change management requires you to give yourselves time. It's not something that you will decide that change is here, I'm changing from today. We all know that habit, it takes what? 64 days to form habits of consistently doing something. So you can't start something today. A month runs for 24 days. And then you tell us that I did it for 1 month and I forgot about it. That I can promise you will not be effective.
Grace, maybe I can also chip in on that particular question. The other thing that you need to do if you want to be a culture transformational agent is to attend programs like this, attend conferences, attend conventions, attend things that you get new ideas from. Because once a new idea lands on you as a professional, you start thinking, I need to change certain things because of what I learned at the convention, because of the things I learned at the conference. Human beings are the change agents, but they become change agents after internalizing new information, new perspectives, new insights. I heard Joyce saying that we move away from HR insights to HR value. That's now new. I'm sure that people have learned something, that now we need to move from HR analytics insights to HR value. We have gained something from this, and I'm sure there are people who are properly catalyzed to change some of their policies, some of their people themselves, some of the processes, even themselves, because even us, we can become impediment to change. So there are some people who had something and they are going to use it in changing the culture of the organizations. Over to you.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you, Richard. Joyce, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There's this question that has recurred. I think I've seen it 3 times about change in public service. How do you navigate through the bureaucracies?
Wow. That's a very, very valid one, and very, very good question. In public entities, because public entities are not okay. Let me rephrase. They're full of politics, full of institutional history. Them days we never used to do this, and lots of rigidity. I would say, one, you must really get to know who is your greatest change influencer. In other words, in public institutions, I think you have to do a lot of lobbying, unlike in other places. So, for example, you want to roll out a new HR system. No one seems to really be aligned to it. You must look for at least one evangelist who can talk on your behalf with regards to that change. Number two, understands the political environment and ensure that you possess political acumen. Political acumen doesn't mean that you have to align yourself to what they want. No. It simply means where is the grapevine and how can I influence that grapevine to work in my favor? Number three, you must sell the benefits of change. Many people sometimes don't bother even listening because they cannot see no value, they cannot see the benefit of change. That's very, very important. Number four, you must create other change agents in a public institution before you go full throttle, so that you're not at it alone. There's safety in numbers. And then lastly, confidence, humility. With the public institutions, kifua unaeka nyuma, uweki mbele sana. Yani, you become a bit, you become very humble, but we will very firm with regards to the direction that you are taking. Now, that is the how. Thank you.
Grace, probably also ask another question that probably I see, which is prevalent in discussions like this. Just what do you think makes one a strategic human resource? Because at some point in your conversation, you mentioned that HR people sit behind. That means that is a sign that we do not engage in strategic. What makes one a strategic HR? Because you cannot be a very good change catalyst if you are not strategic and if you do not understand what is human resource strategy. What do you think makes one a strategist who is valued within the organization?
Very valid question, Richie. Thank you. Thank you so much. One, the HR professional must be knowledgeable, not only technically, but also environmentally. What I mean is this. You can never develop or think about strategy without understanding the environment you are working in. For example, today, if I asked most of us, do we know the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that our businesses are going through? Not so sure. Some of us, maybe we will have that, the fingertips. Number two, what makes a person a strategic HR person is to then understand the business or the public institution direction and repackage or reposition themselves and the HR strategy to speak to that direction. For instance, currently we are having, let's say, challenges around the dollar and shilling fluctuations. That's just an example. A HR person, of course, okay, another thing, for example, would be affordable housing that has come in, therefore introducing a higher staff cost. And then the social health fund that is coming that is going to maybe even heighten the staff cost a bit further. If I were a strategic HR partner, I should already start asking myself, instead of laying off people because I cannot be able to pay all of them and foot this cost, what other opportunities can be created for the business so that we redeploy people to those businesses and give them meaningful employment? That is strategy. So it's about being anticipating. It's about understanding what is about to come and then planning towards it. It's about being knowledgeable. And it's also about being on the ground. You know, sometimes people think strategy is sitting at the high tower, developing it, and then saying, here it is, go ye. No, it's about going to the ground and understanding what are the challenges that are people facing and what solutions do I give. For example, In our organization, when we realized we had a bit of challenges of people having, issues, personal issues that were affecting work, we sat as a HR team and our HR lead, and we proposed, why don't we recruit a doctor who is going to lead our wellness agenda? That is strategy. By then, there were 60 people, but by now, there are so many because we could anticipate there's a challenge that is coming through. So what actions then does a HR person take after they've realized that this is what is about to come through? That would be my answer, Richie, and over back to you.
All right, and I think we can take, one of the last questions. But before we do that, allow me to recognize the presence of my good friend Herbert Zake. The name you are straining to read, Richard, is Steadfast Quality Solutions, a company led by Herbert Zake, who has brought us the Ugandans who are on the call. He shared our flyers there. We thank you, Herbert, for your support. But there's a question from Dominic. In a chemical reaction, most of the times the catalyst is consumed. As HR catalysts, what must we get right not to burn our fingers as we catalyze change in the organization?
Maybe Grace, you can go first. That's a very interesting one.
Joyce, I was not the speaker today, but yeah, I think I would go about this the way you answered the whole political question. I think it's really related because the one thing that you need to always be sure of is what you really want to change, and the reasons, your why of initiating change will help you keep off the burning bushes, so to speak. So you need to understand the organizations to which you work. For example, the answer that was given about political environments. Now you have probably an organization that's family-run business, where decision making is run by more than 2 people or 3 people or something like that. And sometimes it brings about emotions. So you really need to understand the environment in which you are catalyzing the change. And then from there, you know which areas to keep off. You know, you can't just go and dip your hand in hydrogen peroxide. You know it's going to burn you. So you know that this side, there's hydrogen, this other side, there's this. So unapita katikati yao. You will just use this other path to make sure that your change initiatives are also accepted. I don't know whether you have another contribution to that. I think that would be my answer. I think I would craft my way into it.
Me too. I think for the chemical to be consumed, it means, number one, the chemical was not strong. Number two, the chemical had an aspect that could easily be consumed. But number three, maybe it was not very clear in terms of how to react, and reacted anyhowly. So what I would say is, you must create and you must customize your approach in every change. All changes are not the same. All organizations are different. You must understand what's the culture, what's the leadership direction, what is this that I can do to still get buy-in, even if there's no buy-in. So that's how I would approach it, Grace, personally, to ensure that, you know, as the catalyst, I'm not consumed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing that I think what we have forgotten to mention is thinking through the process. Like you see the end before you even start. You think through all the possibilities in between, so that then you have solutions for every obstacle that you find. So you need to, when you're initiating change, you don't just think about now or just the change, this has to change, this has to change. No, you think through everything and the effect it has, and then how will you deal with the potential hurdles that you're likely to face. I think that would be my other contribution. So, Ati, how can you bring HR change to a family partnership organization? Julius Kibet, you need to see me. I work a lot with family-owned businesses. I can share a few pointers that can help.
Yeah, that will be excellent.
Yeah, and I think in the interest of time, allow us to probably call it a night. I see it's already 9:26, and I know you guys want to go and start having your mini Friday. Tomorrow is a public holiday, so we are sleeping in. And for those who are working, we are saying sorry. Ugandans told me they have not seen their moon yet. We apologize. The one for Kenya was spotted, so poleni sana. I don't know.
They are yet to see their moon.
Yeah, they're yet to see their moon. So we apologize to you guys, and I hope that your moon can be spotted sooner. But probably it was. I think I've seen a Ugandan update, Eid Mubarak. So anyway, I think I want to say I want to take this opportunity to actually thank Joyce. Thank you for a very well articulated presentation. Thank you that you, regardless of the technology issues, you have been able to give us pointers. I'm even seeing on the chat, Grace, please bring Joyce back for another conversations. I know she's an amazing, amazing speaker. We had her at HR Congress, I think, last year, and we got the same feedback that we need to bring her back. So we will keep tapping into her knowledge as we go along. And please invite her to your organization. She can come and train you guys as well, of course, at a cost, just FYI.
Thank you.
And of course, I want to pass my regards to Richard. Richard, thank you very much for your support. I really, really don't take it for granted. Thank you so, so much. You are one of my very, very good friends. May God, Nikki, you remove your hands on your face. I want to see you as I say that. You're shying away. Are you?
He's an excellent facilitator.
Yes, he is. We make quite an amazing team. So thank you, Richard, for holding fort and just for your support as always. And Catherine Sidandi, our sign language interpreter, we really, really appreciate you and thank you for making the time to be here. And as always, we really, really appreciate. So for the next session next week, we have performance coaching, performance management, coaching as a tool. We're discussing coaching as a tool for your performance management. That's what's coming up on Tuesday next week. Jacinta, I don't know whether you're on the call. Please paste our YouTube, our WhatsApp group for people to join to be able to be updated on what's coming up in Atara Solutions. We have a WhatsApp group. I don't know, somehow my WhatsApp web is not functioning. So, and I'm not too sure Jacinta. Oh yeah, Jacinta has posted. There you go on the WhatsApp chat. You can join our WhatsApp group to be able to know what's coming up next, especially for those of you who are not. And please, we will have this recorded, uploaded on our YouTube channel within the week, so you can always catch up. And there's a lot of information there. Please subscribe and get to just listen in and learn more. Richard has emphasized on the need to learn. So please go in and learn and learn and learn, and hope that you will become better HRs for your organizations. So to you, our audience as well, thank you very much for joining us. I know a lot of people are out there celebrating Eid. Even Christians are out celebrating Eid and pretending it's also that Muslims also celebrate Christmas. We understand you. So thank you, our audience, for creating the time to be here. And from the comment, I can see the session was quite insightful. And we are very, very grateful that you made it with us tonight. To our partners, we really appreciate you. Thank you very much for the support. Pathway Solution Services, Steadfast Quality Solutions, Profiles International, Nile Front Cottages in Ginger, Elsa Mea in Naivasha. And then we have Panessa Training Institute, we have Wicklin, we have Capula Mintito, we have Labor Planet, we have Liaison Insurance Group, among others. So we really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Grace Nzula, and I am an HR consultant with Atara Solutions. I also do training, so do not get stuck with your trainings in your organizations. Please welcome us into your institutions. And if you have an organization that needs HR support, if you don't have policies or you're looking to update your policies, please reach out to us and we are able to give you that as a service. And then please join Richard's class on what do we call it? Public speaking. Richard has a session on public speaking that you can actually join, and he offers one-to-one sessions. So you can actually get that done for you. I think that would be all for my announcements. And the team at Atara Solutions, as always, you guys are the best. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you for the support. And from me, it's good night.
Thank you and have a good night.
Joyce, we forgot your parting shot. Yeah. Please give us a parting shot.
It's okay. Time is gone, but thank you so very much. Thank you for having me, Grace and team. Truly, truly appreciated. Looking forward to engaging more with you. I think some people were asking for my contacts, and I will allow you to share that if it's within your, purview to do the same. Thank you, and thank you for having me. Much appreciated, Grace. Asante.
All right. Asante sana. Joyce, if you need Joyce's contact, you can get in touch with me and I'll be able to share. Richard, you have shared your contacts with host and panelists, not to everyone.
Okay, all right, it's all right.
So people cannot see. Maybe you want to post it again to everyone. So if you're looking for public speaking classes, you can get in touch with Richard. And if you're looking for an MC, and I am not available, you can always get in touch with Richard.
Sure. Sure.
Bye.
But yeah, so thank you so much, guys, and good night.